what is stress? In physics, stress is, when forces act on a body, if it's a solid body, it will equal an opposite reaction. But if it's not a deformable body, then if the forces act on you, the body will develop internal forces. And stress is a measure of the internal forces that develop due to external forces acting on the body. So if there are forces inside the body, the body has to develop the energy to get rid of these forces. So in the times of stress, our whole body is activated. The first releases, cortisol is released, which increases the metabolism, suppresses the immune system. It activates the adrenaline gland, so that adrenaline is released, which gives you a fight or flight response, so that you deal with the stress. But a lot of energy has to be produced, and that requires a lot of sugar, and not only sugar, but what happens is a lot of the proteins in the body are broken down and used for this thing, and plus lots of adrenaline gets depleted. Now, adrenaline is such an important neurotransmitter. There's a group of neurotransmitters called the catecholamines. These are the adrenaline, dopamine, noradrenaline. These are all known as catecholamines. Then the human physiology, the mechanism of body function by Vander et al., 8th edition. On page 2006 it says that the catecholamines are formed from the amino acid tyrosine, and that these neurotransmitters play essential roles in states of consciousness, mood, motivation, directed attention, movement, blood pressure regulations, and hormone release. Now, if adrenaline goes away, all these other catecholamines also get depleted in the body. So it's just natural that we'll have mood disorders, motivation will go, we'll lose pep, we'll become lethargic, directed attention will suffer, we'll start getting attention deficits, movement will suffer, that means we'll start having behavioral problems. All these problems are bound to happen if you are stressed and your tyrosine is depleted and you don't replenish it with tyrosine in your food stuff. So it's important that people know about this, that amino acids, and another thing is tyrosine is one of the 20 amino acids. All the work is done in our body by the means of proteins. The proteins are synthesized only from these 20 amino acids found in nature. If any one of them is depleted, the protein that requires it will not be able to manufacture and our health will suffer. So it is important that we balance the diet. Balancing of diet means balancing the 20 amino acids, getting the adequate amounts of the 20 amino acids in our diet. It's not just energy and proteins. Proteins are not just, proteins are, when you eat proteins, they are broken down into the 20 amino acids, and these 20 amino acids go into our bloodstream and then manufacture all the 100,000, how many different proteins that are there in the body. So, some of them are like tryptophan is another important amino acid, because it manufactures serotonin in the brain. Now, serotonin is not there, you get depression. And this is another, serotonin is, to make energy, each cell requires niacin to produce the ATP molecule, which is the energy molecule, which will go all over the body and give energy wherever it wants. But each cell requires a lot of niacin, that is vitamin B3. So, vitamin B3 gets depleted in times of stress. And when vitamin B3 is such an important vitamin, that what happens is tryptophan, which is already a limiting amino acid in most foods, because it's found mostly in milk and beef and pork and all these kind of foodstuffs. So tryptophan gets converted into niacin, and the conversion rate is 60 mg of tryptophan to 1 mg of niacin. So if tryptophan gets depleted, serotonin cannot be manufactured in the brain. And if serotonin is not there, we go through depression. And that's why, giving these serotonin inhibitors is just like giving a drug to the even heroin to a cocaine, or cocaine to a dopamine deficient person. So, that only builds up, further depletes the tryptophan and things of that sort in the brain and causes that addiction. And with this depression, so many people are dying. Children are dying. Just to give them the information about the amino acids, see that the amino acids is balanced in their diet, and wow, your stress is gone. Another thing is stress response is anger and fear. Now, anger is necessary to fight for our rights. But once you have fought for your rights and it's over, and we have to get rid of the anger. If the anger carries on, you continue remaining stressed. And if you continue remaining stressed, it's the same thing with fear. If your fear continues, you start developing a chronic stress syndrome. And then chronic stress syndrome is lots of nutrients are getting depleted, plus the cortisol in the body. What happens is that your immune system gets suppressed with lots of cortisol in the body, the hippocampus in the brain. The hippocampus is important for working memory and to form memories. So if that atrophies with lots of with cortisol levels rise in the body, that hippocampus atrophies and it cannot do work. That's why we find that in stress, children are not able to remember what they have studied. And also, in our country, for instance, 50% of the people, children, are malnourished, and that's the biggest stressor.